Journey to Lemora, Chapter 20. A Guardian Falls. That night, Leillian had us begin our spirit magic lesson. We sat in a circle, bathed in moonlight, closing our eyes, meditating. It was difficult not to give in to how tired we were and fall asleep. Our first exercise was to try to speak in one another's mind. Anu performed this most basic form of spirit magic every day. I actually had already done this particular spell with him, so it wasn't difficult for me. I hadn't seen him all day, and my mind started to wander. "Have you seen Anu today?" I asked both Nick and Amber, using my spirit magic. They both struggled to reply and ended up shaking their heads. Leillian saw them using nonverbal communication and decided to blindfold them both until they used only spirit magic to speak. Nick had finally managed to say something, but it wasn't something he meant to share. "I just want to go to sleep. This is so boring," he broadcasted to Amber and I, and we both sniggered. Leillian was less amused. As punishment, he was forced to balance on top of a tall log post on one foot, all while communicating with spirit magic. "The mind is quicker to try to reach out when under stress," she explained. "Concentrate, or you're going to fall down." Leillian was a much stricter and more difficult teacher than Anu or Shayla. When Nick started to yawn or falter, she would have the children throw thick globs of muddy moss at him. He tried to dodge them but failed, getting mud splattered all over his face. "I'm sorry, please stop throwing mud at me," he shouted with his mind finally, and not only to me but the whole grove. Laughter erupted as he climbed down from his post. "Well done," Leillian praised him, smiling slightly. Nick bowed before her and staggered off grumpily to wash off the mud. He returned not long after, having removed his muddy vest, although there was still some mud spattered on his pants and boots. His whole face was flushed with embarrassment. Amber managed to finally use spirit magic too, but in a much less embarrassing way. She sang a song. The grove all paused to listen. Amber had an amazing singing voice. Even the voice in her mind was beautiful. "I may be far away, but you are not alone. We'll reunite someday on my way back home." Amber's voice sang quivering in our minds. I found myself getting misty-eyed after her song was done. I was feeling terribly homesick now, and my heart ached for home. Nick put a comforting hand on her shoulder, and she turned around and cried. He hugged her, and she didn't seem to mind the mud as she sobbed into his broad shoulders. Leillian approved of our spirit magic, and we were dismissed to freshen up and go to bed. I felt heavy, not just with exhaustion, but with guilt and loneliness. I wanted to hug my dad and tell him I was sorry. We weren't going to be home anytime soon. This world was at war with itself, and everyone we met is desperate for our help. And what could we really do? We were just a bunch of teenagers. Teenagers learning magic and otherworldly powers. We each climbed into our hammocks to sleep. I dreamt of the young boy again, but this time it was much clearer. He lived among the Failarians, sleeping in the trees and running through the woodlands. Some of the Fae children would tease him and tugged on his rounded ears, but he would laugh it off. He reminded me of Peter Pan and his lost boys, except in reverse. He was the only human amongst the Fae, but he was just as boisterous and playful. As much as he wanted to be one of them, he wasn't. He was all alone. The Failarians would turn into trees around him and summon sprouts and vines to trip him, but he always shrugged it off. His secret power was not losing his temper, no matter how angry he really felt. He trained harder than anyone else, and eventually he learned to summon his own wood magic familiar. He had proved himself formidable to his peers, but it wasn't enough for them. He was still an outsider. Outsider! Outsider! I woke up startled when I heard voices. I peeked out of my hammock and saw a familiar, silver-haired man followed by an escort of Leillian guards. So they had finally come. Leillian was bound with vines and being pushed by a Fey guard who was holding the vines in one hand and a wooden spear in the other. One of Leillian's guards was also bound up. The one we had let go wasn't among them. "Let me go, heathens! My father will send his armies for this!" Leillian yelled, wild-eyed. He tripped and fell into the muddy earth, and rather than letting him get up, the guards simply dragged him. The Leillians spoke quickly to one another, and I couldn't translate much. "Rador tel lestan, Nesha unira, Alaharis Shah Helar." I heard the words for tell the elder, trap, as well as the word enemy. They dragged him to the far end of the grove, out of earshot and away from the men, women, and children sleeping in the mother oak tree. I was curious to see what was happening, so I climbed down from my hammock and crept low in the grass. I followed them into the forest to the cave, where they threw their captives inside. "Une raka," the guard commanded, and the barbed vines whipped themselves over the entrance of the shallow cave, forming a cage. "You can't keep us here! I demand counsel with the elder!" Prince Leillian yelled at them as the guards turned around and left for the grove. I watched silently from behind a tree. "It's no use, my lord. You can't reason with these savages. Get some rest. We have lost the day, but our soldiers still hold their precious lake," Leillian's own guard murmured, curling up to sleep. Disgraceful. I finally completed my trial, only to get captured on our return to Aloria. "Where is that fool Eddard? He was supposed to be on watch," Leillian muttered, pacing around in what little space they had. "Maybe the Guardian finished him, or else the cold did. I haven't seen hide nor hair since we stormed that damned mountain," the Alorian guard wheezed. "We should have finished them off. Who would have known so many Guardians would be in that empty wasteland?" Leillian spat angrily. "At least we got one of them tonight. Already half dead by the look of 'em. Dead as a doornail now," the Alorian guard laughed cruelly. A chill ran up my spine. A Guardian was dead? Was it Anu? I hadn't seen him all day, and he'd been looking dreadful for a while now, unable to shift into his large beast form. I ran back for the grove at full speed. My legs caught in the thorn bushes, and tree branches whipped at my arms and legs, but I didn't care. I had to know he was okay. As I ran back into the open grove, I saw lights around one side of the tree. There was a sobbing voice and a huddle of Fae standing around something. My heart sank. Shayla was weeping over a dead body. The body of a Leillian man with the same shade of green hair. The onlookers spoke in Leillian, and I tried my best to keep up with what they said. "Ricarian is dead. Who will be our guardian now?" one of the Fae asked the others. "It is not for us to decide. The key. Is the key with his body?" asked another. "I told him not to go. He was too weak. Oh, father," Shayla cried, holding his cold dead hand and weeping on his chest. The Fae noticed me and gave me scornful looks. "A Halar, outsider, this is not for your eyes. Go." "Eslashar Anu, where is Anu?" I demanded, speaking as much Leillian as I could, being that I'd only just started learning. They glowered at me, shoving me away from the tragic scene. I turned away, and to my great relief, Anu was there. He looked angry as well. "Come with me, Caddy," he demanded sternly. I followed him into a different part of the woods, well out of earshot of the Leillians. "Didn't I tell you while we were here we're to show respect? The Leillians do not trust easily, despite how they look." I was," I sputtered defensively. "Their guardian is dead, so now their guard will be up even more so," Anu growled. "We need this ally. Do not do anything to risk that. Understand?" "I understand. I thought you were the guardian that died. What happened?" I asked as calmly as I could. I could feel my body trembling. After our meeting with Leillian about the vision, I met with Ricarian. We hadn't always seen eye to eye, but we agreed to work together to track the Elorians down. We couldn't let them harm the people any more than they already have. Ricarian was still quite injured from their last battle with the Elorians over their sacred Lake Muir. As you know, they lost. Ricarian was determined to go himself, against my and the elders' better judgment. He wanted revenge for his lost men. The Elorian prince must be traveling back to Lake Muir after capturing the Temple of Rashtar. They hold all the points of power now. Their magic and numbers will destroy us unchallenged. We must recapture Lake Muir, Anya explained. Have you had any more visions of the Elorian prince? Any more information about him could be crucial. If we can get him to call off his armies, we might be able to end this war peacefully. I shook my head, and Anu flattened his ears, disappointed. I keep dreaming of a little boy, with brown hair and blue eyes like me. But that's it, I sighed regretfully. Have you spoken to Leillian about this? He asked. No. Do you think I should? Yes, but this may not be the best time. I looked around at the great oak and saw that more people were waking up from their hammocks to see what the commotion was. Among all their faces, I didn't see Leillian anywhere. When they started to realize what happened, many were upset and crying. Others started to press in around Shayla and the corpse of her father. How did this happen? It was the Elorians. Vengeance for Ricarian! Death to the intruders! The crowd started to turn more aggressive and even violent. Some charged towards the guards, blocking the path to the prisoners. One of them managed to land a blow on the face of one of the guards, but he managed to thrust them away with the help of his spear. Sweat trickled down my neck, and I took a few steps back from the shouting mob. Enough! The elder appeared with Leillian on her side. They both had horrified looks on their faces. There will be no more deaths tonight. We have suffered a great loss. Ricarian, our guardian, deserves to have his last ritual observed without this chaos. I hereby decree, no one is to touch the prisoners. Let us prepare to return Ricarian to the wind and soil, she boomed, with tears running down the crinkles of her aged face. Hello, my name is Ella, and welcome to my channel. Here I'll be sharing with you my stories, artwork, animations. If you enjoy my content, please support me by clicking the like button, subscribing, sharing, or ringing the bell for notifications. Links to my website and social media are below. I will be releasing content in sequential order, so please check for new chapters each week.